Tuesday, April 23rd, 2019, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So just over a year ago on March 17th, 2018, I made a video entitled What March 26, 2018 Will Mean to the Petrodollar. It's one of my most viewed videos. I'll put it up in the cards and below in the description, and you can watch that. And what is that in relation to? On that date, at the International Energy Exchange in Shanghai, they started trading the yuan denominated oil futures contract. And that's why I made that video. It was an important date in terms of competition to the petrodollar. And that's what I want to talk about today. I think yesterday was another very important day for the future of the petrodollar, and not in a good way. And why do I say that? Well, the neocon administration in the US declared that they're going to allow the waivers for the Iranian oil sanctions to expire in the beginning of May. And countries that keep dealing or buying oil from Iran will be liable to sanctions themselves. And personally, I think the U.S. Government is shooting themselves in the foot there. It's another nail in the coffin of the petrodollar. Does this mean that I think the dollar is going to collapse right away? No, it just means that countries around the world are going to try to find alternatives to the dollar because they don't want to be bossed around by another country. Sovereign countries don't want to be bossed around by other countries telling them who they can buy their products from. So that's why I think it's important. Before that, of course, I'll look at what the markets are doing this morning. Is just before 7:30 a.m. London. So yesterday I think it was a fairly quiet day, mainly because most of Europe was out, and it does impact the rest of the world. So yesterday the Dow finished down just around 48 points. S&P and NASDAQ finished up on the day slightly. So as I speak here, we've got gold, which reached a high of 1280 yesterday. Now it's back down to 1272.50, down just over $2. Our range has been 1272 to 1276.50. Silver is back below $15. It's at $14.95, down about 5 cents. Range has been $14.94 to $15.09. Dow futures is up 24 at 26,535. S&P futures up 2 1/4, 29.10. NASDAQ 100 future up 12 at 77.25. The currencies, the fiat currencies, sterling or cable is unchanged, 129.82. Euro is down 10 pips, 112.46. That's just under 0.1%. And the yen is unchanged against the dollar, 111.89. And the dollar is up marginally against the Chinese yuan at 671.58. Crude oil, one of the reasons why it went up yesterday was the announcement of this waiver being taken away when this waiver expires in May. Oil sanction against Iran. So WTI right now is up 50 cents or 0.75%. Just above $66. Brent is up 0.2% or 47 cents, just above 74. The bond market, the 10-year yield right now is at 257, so it hasn't moved that much. Bond markets are fairly quiet. So yeah, I made a video just over a year ago, a year and a month or so, March 17th. On March 26th, that's when this oil futures contract started being traded. And I can tell you from working many years as a futures and options brokers that futures contracts don't all succeed when they launch them, and that they could be a failure and not succeed. And so that was an important date. The INE, or International Energy Exchange in Shanghai, had been talking about starting yuan denominated deliverable oil futures contract for many years, and and it took a long time, but they finally did it on March 26th. So I talk about how it will be important for the petrodollar. You should listen to the video. The gist of it is that it's not going to happen overnight, but it's a very important step. It's like a, how can I say, a challenge to the hegemony of the petrodollar. And I think yesterday's announcement by the Trump administration, and we've got here from Fortune magazine, full sanctions on Iranian oil. Trump ends waivers, escalating Iran feud. So it goes on to say the Trump administration said it won't renew waivers that let countries buy Iranian oil without facing U.S. sanctions, a move that roiled energy markets and risks upsetting major importers such as China and India. So it's interesting because there are other countries that are going to be affected by this waiver, and some of them are like allies of the U.S. Countries like Italy, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan. So the list of the current countries that are in this waiver is China, Greece, India, Italy, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and Turkey. And I listened to a report from RT, and they showed Mike Pompeo, the neocon Secretary of State for the United States and Israel. And I have to say, Donald Trump is not only the president of the United States, he's the president of Israel, because he seems to be doing everything to please Benjamin Netanyahu and keep him in power and give him everything. I mean, they must have something on Donald Trump. That's all I can say. That's been a huge disappointment, but not surprising. He's a neocon, Donald Trump, and he was supposed to come in and drain the swamp, have good relations with every country around the world, disengage. Well, and it reminds me of George W. Bush when he was campaigning in 1999 or 2000. He said, oh, we're going to go back to a humble foreign policy. And then he comes to power, and all the neocons swarm into his administration. It's been the same thing with Trump. Wake up, people who think Trump is going to do something different. It isn't. So apart from that, what is this going to do to the petrodollar? I think it's another nail in the coffin of the petrodollar. This is like the equivalent of someone coming around to your house, knocking on the door and telling you, if you go and shop at this place, we're going to come and break your kneecaps or do something, steal your car or, basically bully you. It's like mafia tactics, but on a world scale. That's what it is. And I think it's going to increase countries, how can I say, incentive to get away from being dependent on the petrodollar. Because basically the petrodollar has been used as a weapon, a political weapon. That's why under a gold standard, there's, when countries, when money isn't political, when money is the money of the market, and you have to understand that gold and silver are monies of the market. Historically, that's what's been chosen because they're the most marketable commodities. And what do I mean by that? Well, they're commodities that people will accept for exchange of anything, and it facilitates indirect exchange. But debt-based system like the petrodollar, that's imposed by force. So I think countries like China especially and Turkey, and Italy maybe even are going to respond to this. They're not going to just start buying oil from Saudi Arabia or the United Arab Emirates. Well, that's what Mike Pompeo seems to be telling them to do. I think they're gonna, this is needs to be. We need to keep an eye on this. Am I saying that they're gonna stop using the dollar straight away? No, but you can bet a lot of countries are gonna look at ways of eliminating the dollar as a medium of exchange, because the dollar, money should be, how can I say, politically neutral. A free market money should be politically neutral. Politicians and countries shouldn't have that power, in my opinion. Of course, the US is an empire now, even though people don't admit it. And that's what's happened. Before I finish, just wanted to have a look at how the Shanghai International Oil Exchange is doing. Because I said earlier that on March 26, 2018, they launched their futures contract, which is denominated in Chinese yuan and is deliverable. Shanghai Sour Crude, that's the name of the contract. So as you can see here, the June contract traded, the latest session traded 214,000 lots, which is big. It's a good volume. And the open interest is growing. It's now almost up to 50,000. Just for that month, there is open interest for July, but mostly in June. So yeah, this contract is not going to go away, and I think I think it's very important that we keep an eye on these developments about the petrodollar, U.S. sanctions. Ultimately, you could see countries demand for treasuries decrease, because if they're going to go away from the petrodollar more and more, they won't be using the dollar as much. They won't be needing to park their funds in treasuries or bonds, and that will just mean a higher cost of financing for the U.S. government. And with the U.S. government running huge deficits, this is not the right time to do this, in my opinion. And especially the fact that the U.S. is running huge budget deficits at a time when the economy is supposedly doing great. Can you imagine when we get into a recession, what's going to happen? So yeah, I think having treasuries, aside from actually financing the neocons, that's what you do when you have treasuries or paper dollars. It will also mean, in my opinion, that having these is not going to protect your wealth, because they're going to keep trying, the value of these treasuries are going to go lower and lower, in my opinion. I know the bond markets have rallied recently, but longer term, they're doomed to go lower, and we're doomed to see, liable to see higher interest rates. So there you go, neocons in the US still in charge, and actually, in my opinion, they're shooting themselves in the foot. If they wanted other countries to stay in the petrodollar system, they'd probably be trying to cooperate with them, not bully them and threaten them. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Make sure you hit that little notification bell above to be notified of my new videos. You can also follow me on Twitter, Steemit, and on DTube. I wish you all a great day. Take care. Bye.